final thing I want to speak about is just looking forward to next season. Everyone sort of that I've spoken to so far, including my own belief, is looking at this season as this has to be a title challenge. I'm not really looking at this as a 3-year project. I'm not looking at this as sort of like, oh, maybe next year we'll do. I think we all know the way Chelsea operates. Tuchel will want to be going in for that title. What's just your general feelings about a title race this year? I think that obviously a lot depends on who we get in. But, do you feel good for a title race? Do you think that this squad can do it?
Yeah, I feel like, it does depend on who we bring in. You need to bolster. You need to up from the success that you've had in order to keep yourself at the top of the game. That's standard. But absolutely, the way that we managed to get past Man City in the manner that we did shows that as long as we're consistent and we don't bottle it against little teams like we have done a couple of times this season or last season, then absolutely we should be putting down a title challenge and we should be competing for the Premier League title. And to be honest, that should be the target. The target should be to win the Premier League title. Simple. As they say, if you're aiming higher than you believe that you can achieve, you might actually get somewhere quite decent. So it's a case of, I believe we have the talent, we have the squad, we've got the manager, we've got the manner, the tactics, the system, the formation. The success of the Champions League, you got to go for a Premier League for a Premier League challenge now. You have to. So I believe we can do it. I do necessarily think as well, though, it does, as I've said, depend on who we're going to bring in, because if we were not to bring anyone in and we have the same squad, it does make you wonder, like, okay, can we actually go 38 games again with the same squad where we just managed to cling on to top 4? But then it makes you wonder, like, Tuchel came in with, just half a season and made that difference. So what if he has a full season? It does make you question. That's the uncertainty. That's where I don't know. But I think if we were to get a couple of names in and get, players in positions where we need to bolster, absolutely, we should be going for the Premier League title. And I think we would eventually, maybe not now, but we would eventually become favourites. So, yeah, City are taking it seriously. We know they're going for Harry Kane. They're going for Grealish. They're looking to break the bank. Money's not a problem for them. We hurt them bad. I feel like we've hurt them bad, and they feel like, oh my God, we got to up our game. So we've got to up ours. Simple as that. We can't let them get ahead. But I reckon we can win the title.
On that first thing you said about beating Man City last year, it reminded me a lot of how Liverpool did it against City, where in the first few years of Klopp, they played them in the Champions League and they beat them. I think they played them in the Premier League a couple of times and got, just basically blood in the nose of them and feeling that they could topple them in games. And I think that gave them a lot of confidence in sort of the momentum that eventually led to their Premier League title in 1920. So my hope is with Tuchel and Guardiola and that psychological thing that will be there in the first Chelsea-Man City game, which I think is late September at the Bridge. It's not that far away in terms of when we get going in the Premier League season. But as I did say earlier, I think it's going to be a lot more about how we do against the likes of Palace, the likes of Brighton. It's how we do over the winter months, where Chelsea for the last 4 seasons have plummeted during the winter months. It all goes wrong once we reach November for some reason. So that's obviously going to have to change. I know obviously you would have reacted to the fixtures when they came out. Yeah. We can put a lot into these fixtures in terms of, sorry to be Michael Owen here, but we play every team twice. We all knew that was gonna happen. So I said on my channel, I'm not overreacting to this because it's once again, as we get back to, we don't know what the squads of these teams are going to look like. We don't know the form of everyone. I think a lot of us will go in with the bias of what happened last season. A lot can change in a season, as we know, and the form of many teams could surprise us. So I guess my only concern going into the season, I don't know if you share this, is that the staggered return of players from the Euros after an exhausting season where we kind of have to hit the ground running. And that's where I think Tuchel is going to have his first issue in terms of rotating players, maybe not starting the season against Palace with his first choice team. He may, there may be some players maybe back in contention to start. There could be a majority of players there that, I think the good thing about England facing Germany from a Chelsea selfish perspective is we know at least 3 Chelsea players are coming back, so and which will help us. So is that something that is concerning you?
Yeah, a little bit. You're right. The fact that, it's been such a rigorous season and then they go immediately off to the Euros. No breaks. Go to the Euros. They play. They're still playing now. They were to get to the advanced, stages of the competition, and then they come back. They're gonna have what, maximum 2 weeks, 2 weeks off, max. And then they have to come to pre-season, and then pre-season is going to go on for about a month, or maybe even less, maybe 3 weeks, and then there's a Super Cup, and then the Premier League season starts, and then it's just go again. So it makes you wonder, like, how are they going to cope? How are they going to cope? It's not going to be easy. I think there needs to be a lot of recovery work, especially whilst they're on holiday. They can't just stop and do nothing. They need to try and just get their bodies to recover as much as possible. Take a leaf out of Ronaldo's book, sorry. And just try and focus on the body and keep yourself in top condition. That way, when you come back, you're ready to hit the ground running. But it's not going to be easy. So yeah, it makes you wonder. It makes you think of how. So it makes you wonder how we're going to manage the squad and what Thomas Tuchel is going to do. Fingers crossed it works out, because as you've said, with the Premier League season and the first 6 fixtures, which is the key, I'm with you on this. I think we're going to play everyone twice. It's going to happen. So I'm not really fast. But the impression that it actually makes is by if you're going to play really well in those first 6 fixtures and get good results, that's a massive impression. That's a massive impact to have. You get a lot of big games out of the way, and then you have those mid-table teams and lower table teams and those ones to get through, and you can maybe calculate it and take it a bit easy in terms of rotation. Those first 6 games, we have a chance to make a massive impression and to go top of the table and make a statement and already get quite a bit of hard fixtures out of the way very early on. So it could help us going into Christmas and going to the Club World Cup and this, that, and the other. Again, we've got a massive season, so it does make you wonder in terms of how we manage the squad. But I have faith in Tuchel.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite silly not to after what he's just done with Chelsea. I do agree with you. Having Arsenal, Tottenham, and Liverpool out of the way, away from home, very quickly in the season is, I think, a positive. And I know a lot of people got annoyed with our start, thinking that, look at Man United's easy start, but every team in this league has a bad run of games, as you'd call it on paper. But we don't know what these teams are going to look like, in those bad runs. When we faced Liverpool back in March, we faced them when they'd lost like 3 or 4 games at home in a row. They were a very different Liverpool to the team you would have predicted at the start of the season. So this is something that I think will change throughout the season. My only concern generally is that I do worry the knock-on effect of how long they've been playing for will affect them going into this season. Chelsea have one of the bigger squads in the league, and Tuchel's a flexible coach, and he'll rotate, as we know, and I think that helps Chelsea. My concern is for their general health, the players, because what they're being asked to do, I know everyone will go, they're being paid a lot of money and all of that, but they're still, I think the Christian Eriksen incident should have maybe made us all pause a little bit more, and made us think about the amount. It's not even the last season, it's Project Restart for me. They've been kind of playing almost for 15 months, a lot of Premier League players, if you take away a few weeks in August last year.
And in a compressed season, everything was kind of, cramped together, just so then we finish in May. We started in September and finished in May, whereas normally we start in August. So yeah, it's a case of, cramping the season and cramping the fixtures. The amount of times that we had to play a game every 2-3 days was ridiculous. Great for us as content creators, fantastic. But these are players, as you've said, they're human beings. And it's a case of, doesn't matter because they get paid 200 grand a week compared to 20 years ago where they get paid maybe like 10k a week, or, the average Joe that plays football and gets paid 300 quid a week. It's football. And it's the same sport, and it's more rigorous and it's more demanding on the body, especially at that level. I think there's a lot of people that don't actually understand just how difficult it is to play at that level. It's you watch like Sunday League, lower division, semi-pro, even the first few divisions of professional football, and you think, oh yeah, it's kicking a ball about. No, it's so far beyond that. It's so far beyond that, and there's so much you don't see. There's so much behind the scenes. There's so much work that goes in. Training is rigorous, and you go into games. And you do that for month after month, months on end. It takes a toll. It takes a toll, and that's why careers are short. It's as simple as that. Careers are short because you peak, you stagnate, you dip. Careers over because you can't compete at that level. Whereas normally people would think at someone at 30, 40 years old, you can still hold your own, you're still healthy. But no, in football at the highest level, your body dips. It's unavoidable. You have to go through it. So it's very, very demanding, and it does definitely raise some question marks in terms of how they're going to keep up. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And they have to find a way as a team, as a collective with the medical department, and I'm sure everyone does outstanding work behind the scenes to get everyone in tip-top condition with the schedule that they have to face. So, yeah, it's up to the squad, and it's up to our team, and it's up to the people behind the scenes. But hopefully we manage. And the one thing that I don't want to see is injury after injury after injury. Hopefully not.
We started the conversation speaking about how long we've been on YouTube. This is the non-Chelsea on the pitch related question. Kind of the final one I want to ask you is, your channel's doing so well at the moment, and obviously so many people in the community. Just sort of your reflection and sort of feelings on online content at the moment, because unfortunately with social media, not all of it is positive. There are negative sides to it, and it can be quite overwhelming. But because I think you're a great person to ask in terms of Chelsea content, because you've been on it the longest, so you've been able to see literally all of it in terms of the development. How have you found it? Do you have hope it's going to get better in terms of maybe some negatives that you think about when you're sort of evaluating what's going on with the Chelsea online community at the moment?
The Chelsea online community, I mean, the Chelsea YouTube community specifically, I think is one of the best, if I'm being completely real. And I'm not saying that just because, we're Chelsea fans and this, that, but I honestly believe it's one of the best compared to, other teams, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, City. Not much there, if I'm honest. That's not a dig, but just not much there. I think with Chelsea, the amount of interaction, the amount of channels, the amount of collabs there are, it's very wholesome. It feels very wholesome, and the general vibe is actually quite a positive one. You obviously are going to get some people that try and get views by being ranty and being outrageous and angry and this, that, and the other because they know it gets clicks. I think it's always just best to be as honest as possible. And if it warrants that reaction, cool. But if it doesn't warrant that reaction, don't force it. And I feel like with Chelsea, that is where that rule is applied the most. I feel like people are actually, rational with the way that they make their content, unlike some other teams where you just see fans coming on and going on a madness just to get a few clicks. So in terms of the way it's developed, I'm quite happy with the way that it is. I'm not going to include Twitter because Twitter's Twitter, and that's just its own entity and it's its own thing. It's just mental, and I don't necessarily think that's just a Chelsea thing. That's everything. That's just everything. Not even just football Twitter. It's just everything. Twitter is a cesspit of madness, and it is what it is. But in terms of YouTube, and as you've said, being on it for as long as we have, and seeing that development, seeing that progress, and the amount of channels that you just see popping up, from time to time, the support system that there is, everyone helps each other, which is fantastic. No matter what the size is, I see others, jumping onto other channels and helping others out and getting collabs done, and everyone's got similar views. But even when people disagree, it's respectful and it's nice, and both sides explain well. And yeah, I'm very, very happy with the way that the Chelsea community online has gone, and I think it will only continue to go in that way too.
Younes, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for coming on the channel once again. Hopefully our next collab on the channel won't be as long. I think it was like November 2020 the last time we collabed. I remember us collabing a few times last summer when Kai Havertz was being linked to us, but like it's literally been so long. I think before we started recording this conversation, I think we were speaking about how mental Chelsea is, and Chelsea is constantly just ever changing. You can't predict what's going to happen in 2 weeks, let alone 5 months or a year. So who's to say what's going to happen the next time we're having a conversation in terms of what could have changed. But Always great to have you on the channel. Give you the chance now to shout out where people can find your work online. I'm pretty sure everyone knows where they can find your work online, but in terms of any content you've got coming up before the season starts.
I mean, firstly, thank you for having me on, man. Been a pleasure. And yeah, we'll definitely do this a bit more often. I'll make sure that I get you onto my channel too, and we can do something. But in terms of where people can find me, YounesTalksFootball here on YouTube, obviously. YounesHH on Twitter, same goes for Instagram and all of that madness. In terms of content, at the moment, it's just keeping up with the whole transfer business and seeing what's happening. Hopefully, also paying attention to England and other transfer rumours, and that goes on, you know, not just at Chelsea, but in football in general, because I'm mixing it up a little bit. Some Chelsea content, some general football content. But going into the new season, it's going to be a case of following pre-season, seeing how that goes, getting ready for the Super Cup. And then, yeah, let's start the Premier League season. But I think now, in terms of transfers, the one name that I think everyone's got their eye on is Erling Haaland. So we'll see what happens with Haaland and if we can get that over the line and then bring on the season. So, yeah, it's a case of wrapping up the Euros. Yeah, on my channel, I'll keep up to date with what's going on at Chelsea and other teams, and then we get ready for the new season.
Absolutely. All of Younes' links to his work, I believe, as well as Twitch, I'll leave down in the description box below, so you can do all that good stuff. Go and follow Younes' work. Great guy. And as I said, I'm sure we'll be having many conversations in the future. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads on the channel. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.